I did a little networking this weekend and I went to a meet and greet event. There we had to introduce ourselves and I said, I'm Brianna, I'm a life coach. I help women become spiritually aligned. Afterward, this woman approached me and she said that she wanted to get me connected to the work that she does in the community and that she's having an event joining the younger generation with the older generation and all this other stuff that I definitely want to be a part of and that I was really inspired by. She's the type of woman that is in the, like, you know, she's in the room. She shows up. She's very present. People know her. She has a strong presence. And when she introduced herself, it was with authority for sure. So we were talking and she's sharing with me what she does. And then I asked what she was doing at the event that we were all there to kind of like talk about, and she said she was holding a prayer clinic. So I said, I have been wanting to learn specifically how to pray for protection because I want to be able to teach that to my audience. Well, she had a lot to say about prayer and she really started exhorting me in a way, which I believe means sort of like teaching and with authority. She started exhorting me. She was really advising me on who I need to be to do the work and also what the full scope of the work is. You've probably heard people say that you need to have like really big dreams and whatever you're thinking about, expand it and make it bigger. What I have learned in the short time since I have pivoted to really wanting to incorporate spirituality in my coaching work is that I definitely am thinking about it way too narrow. I've had 2 experiences where the person has really expanded my perception of what I might be doing. And in each of those experiences, I start to feel a little bit insecure because I'm like, I am not the person who can do this. In this case, she talked to me a lot about what comes with dealing with broken women. And she talked about what she does. She says she fasts every week and she fasts for like 3 days before an event. She also wakes up at 5 a.m. to pray. She talked about, I feel like she talked about an extended prayer session, but I know that when I visited a church recently, one of the people was talking about praying for 6 hours. I just, wow. So at some points in that conversation, I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this work because this is a lot. I did feel like she was extending herself to be a resource, but I felt intimidated. I was like, maybe I'm not really the right person to this, although I do feel called to this. There's also, as usual, that assumption that I have the exact same belief system. So there's a lot of like, this is what you're going to have to do. I left feeling like I had a lot to process. I called my mom to tell her and she, I think she fell asleep on me because she didn't respond and then I hung up and I haven't heard from her since. It's been 2 days. So I took a lot of time to think. What I came to the conclusion was, the conclusion I came to was that while that might be right for her, this is not necessarily right for me, but it could be in the future. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the process of determining what is right for you in your spiritual journey. I've definitely had experiences just in the scope of my spiritual journey, not just in my journey to working as a spiritual life coach, where I looked down the road at some people and was like, oh, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be that spiritual. I saw a post recently where somebody said, I don't ever want to be this woke. I wish I could remember the content of the post, but it was something like super ridiculous. Super ridiculous. And I can definitely relate to that sentiment. So sometimes when you're on a spiritual journey, you might see something and it feels like in order to have the spirituality I think I'm supposed to have, I'm gonna have to do that. At one point, even as a Christian, at one point, I think I was doing I don't know if it was a Bible study fellowship Bible study. I was doing some sort of Bible study and they were talking about, somehow I got the idea that the people were vegans or something. So I was like processing the potential of me becoming a vegan in the future. My husband's like, absolutely not. But there's always these things. There's always things you see that feel very far, and it can make you feel intimidated and insecure. But what you have to know is that when something is for you and when you're ready for it, it doesn't seem scary. It doesn't seem intimidating. It doesn't turn you off. Sometimes you need to have an open mind to stuff that turns you off, so that you can get to a place of considering it. But just because somebody else is doing it, somebody else believes it, someone else practices it, doesn't mean it's for you. And it also could be for you in the future, but it doesn't mean it's now. I can't go from not fasting at all, praying for 5 to 10 minutes a day, to fasting for 1 day a week for 15 hours and praying for 6 hours. Like, that's a big jump for me. So it doesn't feel like something I can do. But if I make a small change, maybe in a year, that feels like something I could do. I remember as a young Christian, I'd be like, oh my gosh, read my Bible every day. But by the time I graduated college, I was reading my Bible every day. It wasn't something that I had to like work myself up to do. I also want to say that just because someone who's super spiritual does something doesn't mean that that's what you have to do. I don't think everything is for everybody. And that also goes for the atheist leg of the journey. If you are an atheist, I feel like I see some of the same things in those communities as I do in religious communities, because I do like to be in atheist communities. But it's like, everybody has to have the same values. Everybody has to be liberal. I'm not liberal. I'm also not conservative, but I'm definitely not like, you don't know what I believe about stuff until I tell you. You don't know what my viewpoint is. But in those groups, sometimes it can seem like in order to be like a true atheist, you have to feel this way about religion. You have to feel this way about spirituality. You have to view politics this way. You have to be championing this and that. But that might not ever be for you. Even if you think, well, it doesn't appeal to me now, maybe it will in the future, maybe it will, or maybe it just won't be for you. In religious settings, in the dogma is a lot of one size fits all, in my opinion, where if someone models something for you, if someone models something, you get the idea that that's what you're supposed to do, and they have the idea that that's what you're supposed to do. And then if you don't do it, then sometimes you can feel inferior, you can feel judged, you can also feel rejected. Of course, there are some things in the Bible that clearly you're supposed to do or not supposed to do, but then there are some other things that people just kind of expect you to adopt when that might not be who you really are. So the point of this video is just to be aware that you are on your own journey, and the things that you hear, while they might be good and they might sort of they might be a practice of someone that you admire, that doesn't mean that that's your path. And just because it might be, just because it is on the path that you want to be on, doesn't mean that you need to do it now. When it's for you, when the time is right, it will feel like the right next step for you. It shouldn't feel, I can't say it shouldn't, because there are times it's appropriate to make radical change, but a lot of times when it's time to make a change, it's gonna come from you and not from somebody else. It's not gonna be someone introjecting their values or their beliefs and practices onto you. It's gonna be you identifying that thing could be helpful to you. And my mom's calling, so she's okay. that's what I wanted to share. I hope you guys can use that information, and I hope that you make your spiritual journey your own. Bye. Hey, Mom.